This is a video about truth and logic. So in a world filled with fake news, lies, and propaganda, what is to believe? What is truth? Well, we could test for it. And one test many people use is, oh, I feel that it's true. Well, hunches, feelings, and guesses, unfortunately, are not reliable. So our feelings is not a good criterion of truth. How about tradition? It's always worked before. Well, one idea that's seemed to always work before is that the Earth is the center of the universe, a geocentric view. Well, unfortunately, that's proven wrong. So ideas can become obsolete with new knowledge. So tradition is not a good criterion of truth. Well, mommy said it's true. Your teacher said it's true. Lots of people might say it's true. But what people say can't be trusted. First of all, people are not necessarily omniscient. In fact, we don't know of anyone in this life that is omniscient. Worse, people misuse authority. So this is not a good criteria. What people says is true can't be trusted. So what can be trusted? Well, truth has been investigated for hundreds of years, and I'm relying upon the ideas of the great philosophers by William and Mabel Sahakian. It's available from Barnes & Noble, also from Amazon.com, and there's also a copy on Google Books. Basically, there are five criteria of truth: correspondence, pragmatism, negative pragmatism, rigorous consistency, and coherence. Correspondence means that it corresponds to our senses. Our senses tell us what is true. Evolution has been trying to get us to believe that for about 500 million years. And this can be thought of as duck logic. Basically, if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. That's what our senses are telling us. So you look at that question mark over there, and it's now something different. What is that new glyph? What is that symbol? If you said it's a letter, capital L, letter F over a capital L, you would have been correct. So what it appeared to be, which was E, was not true. As a result, our senses can't be trusted. You're fooled by mirages and other optical illusions. Plus, our senses are not the best. Many of us have had a pet dog, and the dog has better hearing and a better sense of smell. So again, we can't trust our senses. It's not a good criterion of truth. How about pragmatism? Basically, we set tests to verify what is true. And that's what's typically called the scientific method. So if an idea passes our tests, it works that we found truth? Not necessarily. In the 1950s, there was a new drug that appeared to be tested successfully, and it was the infamous thalidomide. Thalidomide was given to pregnant women, and it caused irreversible damages to their babies, missing limbs, many died. So science failed in that point of time. So it does not always work well or as hoped. What we want for truth is something that always works and always works well. So pragmatism is not it. How about negative pragmatism, which was spawned because of the failure of pragmatism? With negative pragmatism, what works might or might not be true, but what doesn't work can't possibly be true, because the truth always works and works the best. Good example. Back in the 17th century, Isaac Newton came up with his law of gravitation, and that law has worked beautifully for hundreds of years. At the beginning of the 20th century, Albert Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, which also calculates gravitation. So, which is better? And to answer that question, there was a contest that was set up in 1919 to compete Newton's law of gravitation against Einstein's theory of relativity. And that was set up in 1919 because there was an eclipse that was coming up. And it's known that light bends around massive objects like stars and galaxies. It's called gravitational lensing. And with the eclipse that was coming up in May of 1919, that was an opportunity to test which system worked the best. And the contest would be which theory most accurately predicts the bending of light during the 1919 solar eclipse. And the testing would be done both in Brazil and on Principe Island, which was west of Africa. The results were that Einstein's theory predicted 1.75 seconds of arc, Newton's predicted 0.87 seconds of arc, and the actual deflection turned out to be an average of 1.79 seconds. So Einstein's theory was basically spot on. So Einstein's ideas win. Does that mean that Newton's law of gravitation lost? Yes and no. Technically, negative pragmatism and Einstein's theory won, but the theory of relativity is very difficult for computing gravitation. Newton's simple law is easy to use and thus is still used today. It's fast, it's pretty darn accurate, and only if absolute critical precision is needed will scientists resort to Einstein's theory of relativity to calculate gravitation. But again, negative pragmatism is the new idea, and it says with this contest, the science of today must give way to the better science of tomorrow. So is negative pragmatism used in any of the sciences? Well, it turns out it is. But the idea of negative pragmatism was restated by Feynman. Tomorrow's experiment might succeed in proving wrong what you thought was right. We never are definitely right. We can only be sure we are wrong. It's pretty convoluted. Basically, what he was saying is today's knowledge is theory. It's the best that we have today, and it might work beautifully, just like Newton's law of gravitation, but it might be superseded by tomorrow's knowledge. So it's mostly been embraced by archaeology, and archaeologists won't dig up an entire site knowing that science will become better in the future. So they reserve portions of the sites for future scientists who may have better tools and techniques than are available today. So negative pragmatism says we are not omniscient. Today's knowledge is theory. All right, the next criteria is rigorous consistency. And for rigorous consistency, the rules must be followed exactly. Mostly it is found with mathematics. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and it will always equal 4 as long as we recognize that we're using base 10. So it's more accurately, it's 2 base 10 plus 2 base 10 equals 4 base 10. And that goes for all the other mathematics. So as long as you follow the rules exactly, it will always work. It'll work today. It's worked for hundreds of years, and it will work into the future. Physics also seems to be useful with rigorous consistency. Physics is the study of nature, and the laws of physics are laws. They're exact and they never break. At least we've not been able to break them. So both math and physics seem to police themselves everywhere, and they are brutally rigorous. The last criteria, coherence, basically says that the universe is integrated and all of the laws and everything works together. No exception. The universe is seamless, whether you go from one idea to another idea, music, literature, biology, botany, engineering, the arts, birds, fish, giraffes, forests, mountains, oceans. It doesn't matter. Everything works together, even our thinking and our emotions. So it says that the universe is based in physics. That's what the E equals mc squared means. And therefore, physics is the mother science underneath everything. So for criteria of truth, correspondence is duck logic, pragmatism is a scientific method. Negative pragmatism says truth is theory, and rigorous consistency, primarily only useful within math and physics. And finally, coherence says the universe is integrated. If you can use all of these criteria together, it will be far more powerful than any one of them alone. Most of the material of these presentations can be found in the book, Reignite Your Creativity, Psychology of the Creative Mind, available on Amazon.com.